Well, happy hump day, party people. Today's video is going to be about welding tips and tricks that I've covered in like the last 2 weeks to actual buddies of mine that are having issues in the weather or performing tasks, etc. And I figured I'd just make a whole video about all of those things. So the first thing is, a buddy of mine was running gas pipe across a rubber roof and was dealing with the fiberglass blankets, and I mentioned to him, go get some carpet tiles off of Craigslist. Usually these are 24 by 24. They're like a quarter. Like, I have a whole 4-foot stack of these things. I would much rather lay on these than those trash fiberglass blankets. And the sparks, when they hit this, they melt the nylon fibers and they stay put. They don't roll off. Then the next issue is a buddy in Arizona is an iron worker, and he is having a real hard time staying warm in the cold weather. He mentioned that it was 29 and it was just unbearable for him, which I get it. But wearing latex gloves underneath your work gloves is going to make a world of difference, either welding gloves or connecting gloves or anything. These help out a lot. Yes, your hands sweat, but that helps with it. And if you buy a pack, make sure you get some decently thick ones. These are 8 mil and those are pretty decent. And then following on with him, he was sitting on iron and getting his butt real cold, so I suggested to him to try to go find one of those like little kids kickboards at the recreational pools. Those things seem to hold up pretty good for sitting on. If you go grab like some of that 2-inch blue insulation, it crumbles and it goes to hell. So if you can locate one of those little kids kickboards to sit on, it'll isolate yourself, because steel will absolutely suck the heat out of your body, just like water. And then the final thing I'm going to cover today is, I had a buddy of mine that does a bunch of corral fence and stuff, and he usually uses a portaband. This particular day, I think his blade broke. He didn't have any others, and he fired up his torch and he's like complaining like, this is fucking dumb. I hate running a torch on this thin material. And it was only like, I don't know, 1/8 inch material. I told him, I was like, you have to have the right size tip. So I wanted to explain to you guys these different tip sizes. I'm hoping that it focuses because I can't see with my glasses on. You need to have the right size tip for the material you're cutting. Otherwise, you're just going to burn the metal and blow it apart. So if you can kind of see the size difference there, less gas, smaller material is going to be way easier to cut. Now, I'm not really super up to my education on torch tips, but I do know that smaller is better than bigger with smaller material. So last week, I think it was, or maybe it was at the beginning of this week, he went and bought the smallest tip he could find at the weld supply, and he immediately wrote me. He's like, man, this works so much better. And yeah, so you really need to size the torch tip. And if your torch tip is too small, you can always crank up your oxygen. Like, I can cut like 1-inch steel with those little tips if I set my regulators at 7 and 70. It works great. You're not going to blow the tip out or anything like that. And obviously, you know, you need a clean tip. But if everything's set up right, you should have that little dot that you can move around and manipulate and cut the material with nice and easy. You should not have to fight it if it's set up correctly with the correct torch tip and gases. And if you're too hot, you know, turn your gases down either at the torch or at the regulator.